Good evening, folks. You're very welcome to tonight's edition of the Leinster Laighin. He's Nathan Johns. I'm Conor BROOMFIELD. You're very welcome to tonight's show. And we're waiting for an intro. How are you tonight, Nathan?
Not too bad. How are you?
That's good.
It's been a while, but I'm coming out of my shell. And I never thought I would fall in love with someone just like you. And nobody here now, I hear you calling out, I hear you calling out for love. And nobody here now, but I hear you calling out, I hear you calling out for love. And I hear you calling.
There we go.
There we go.
Fan of that video. I like the look of that.
Yeah, pretty
Right,
cool.
so-
Pretty cool.
Right. I mean, I'm probably just about getting over the La Rochelle game. The result in the weekend against Conor certainly helped, but the first 15 minutes didn't. What were we? 13? Was it 16-0 down at one point? That was an interesting start to the game. That one.
Yeah, it was. I was just listening to Dave Kearney today, and he was doing media duties for Leinster, and he was asked, and he was just kind of a bit of a what went wrong at the start of the match, and he just kind of shrugged his shoulders and said, "Well, I think we were half asleep getting off the bus," he said, or something to that effect. But in fairness, they recovered very well and put in a brilliant performance for the following 65 minutes. Great performances across the park. No more so than Hugo Keenan with his hat-trick of tries. There he is now, a man possibly unlucky not to make the Lions tour, but that's something we'll discuss later.
Yes.
I think the big thing, Nathan, is the fact we can turn on these sort of performances. Leinster can turn on these sort of performances in Pro 14 matches or against other Irish provinces, but when it comes to the crunch, we struggle. And that's something we'll be looking into tonight, isn't it?
Yeah. I think we'll finish things up. I think by talking about the size problem and how do we get by those latter stages of Europe. But just from the Connacht game itself, there were two things that stood out to me. The first was how, and I've kind of thought about this a little bit before, and Lancaster has always said that he likes having the two playmakers on the park. He was a big fan. How are you, John? Good to see you. And Ian said hello earlier as well. Good. Thanks.
Hi, guys.
Lancaster before, he had Joey at 15 and Johnny at 10. So I'm not surprised that Kieran and Ross have been given a go in the same lineup a few times this year now. I think game by game they've started to look better and better. I think they got one European game in, didn't they, when Kieran started at 12 against Montpellier?
Yeah.
They're starting to show a little bit more faith in that, and the whole conversation around how do Leinster get around the bigger teams, etc., etc. Leinster were struggling; they were being physically outmatched, but then against Connacht in the first few minutes, but then we get a quick turnover and they're 22, and having two out halves on the ball. All of a sudden, it's Ross Byrne, Kieran Frody, pop to Keenan, and we're in. And all of a sudden, you can see the value of having those two distributors. I know Connacht are a different beast to everything else, but it's just something to think about, I think, because it's something that's always worked well for Leinster, but they haven't really unleashed that kind of game plan in big games, massive games yet. And then the other thing that I kind of thought was really interesting was I thought Josh Murphy was incredible on the weekend. I thought his tackle count was really high. But not only that, but a lot of them were dominant shots. He was good as a jackal threat. He's a big man. He looks like this Rhys Ruddock type player who dominates the defensive collisions, and is a bit of a nuisance. And I thought, he's a big lad. Rhys obviously went off injured on the weekend. But, you know, if we're playing against these big teams, how come he's not getting a look, you know, with his size profile? So those were kind of the two thoughts I had from the Connacht game.
Absolutely, yeah. You mentioned the second distributor role, the second playmaker, to have an extra out half playing in the 12 jersey. Like it's one thing I've always lamented with the Henshaw Ringrose partnership is they don't quite click. They don't quite seem to work quite as well off each other as maybe Aki and Henshaw, even though many people would argue that Aki has his limitations as a centre, as a passer, but they just seem to read each other a lot more. It does stifle our attack and play and make us look just a bit more limited, I think. So I think as you alluded to, the coaches really wanted to pursue the Frawley at 12 option this season, but every time he seems to get a run out, he gets injured or he pulls up in pre-match. So it's frustration for everyone. Like no more so than himself. I'm sure that like every time he gets named to wear that 12 jersey, something goes wrong. But I'm sure it's looking forward to next season. I'm sure we'll hopefully see a lot more of it.
Unfortunately, it looks like he's going to be gone for the year. He did his shoulder and his hamstring while trying to make a tackle in 1 minute, in one split second on the weekend. You could see he just looked in a lot of pain and he limped off. He definitely pulled something, and I think the hit did something to his shoulder because he was while making a tackle. So he's probably gone for the season. That's quite sad that he doesn't get the Rainbow Cup, get that run of form. So it'll be interesting. Look, it's going to be very interesting. Ross has played a little bit at 12 before. You know, what do they do there? I'm not sure how fit Harry is at the moment, whether they throw those two guys in to try and keep that going, or do they revert to type and maybe give Henshaw some more game time before he goes off to South Africa? It'd be interesting to see. I mean, we can lament the Rainbow Cup all we want, but we've still got 2 or 3 games left in that, starting with Ulster on Friday night. So, you know, there's still some decent games in there. And one thing I will say, even though it was the Rainbow Cup, I thought the intensity the game was played at was really a really high level. Connacht came flying out the blocks, and then Leinster responded. And you can tell the players were up for it. We were doing the classic Saracens thing of making loads of noise anytime anything happened at a breakdown or a scrum. I'm not sure I'm a massive fan of it, but when you're winning, you don't care. So these games are a higher intensity than I thought they would be, which is good because we're not just watching dead games here. I mean, granted, the scoreline was a bit, but you know, for the first 15-20 minutes, it seemed like a really, really good contest. We should talk about Tadgh, because that was the other big news from the weekend. Was he's signed his extension. There was a lot of people worried because in the space of about a week, I think Leinster announced like 15 players, but the one now they didn't announce was him. So everyone was delighted, but then all of a sudden people realised, hang on, it's only a year. What do you think's going on there?
Yeah, we had a quick chat about this last night, Nathan, and I think we both came to the conclusion that Tadgh is playing his cards very cleverly here, that he's backing himself, I think. First of all, he's backing himself to have a good season, not commit himself to further than a year, so he'll be in a strong position to sign a contract next season, a year out from the World Cup. I've seen some people suggest that it's inevitable he'll go. He's only signing for a year because he intends to go to France or to a big English club maybe in 12 months' time. I don't buy that. You know, I don't. Certainly, it's a possibility, and he's keeping his options open. But I don't think it's inevitable at all. I think if that was his plan, he'd probably move now. I'm sure there's no shortage of offers. I know it's been well documented that all the players, from elite players to guys just coming out of the academy, they're all on reduced terms for contract extensions, and they've all had them limited in time to one or 2 years. So what I think, and I suppose maybe I'm being a bit optimistic here, but what I hope the plan is that he's limiting his contract extension to a year, in the hope that he's in a better place to get a 3-year contract, 2 or 3 year contract in a year's time, when the IRFU's finances are stronger and they can offer a better deal.
Sean O'Farrell's has made that point that because of COVID, there's no gate receipts coming in. The hope is the IRF, you can see what happened. Tadgh went in with a number in his head. Well, his agent went in, this is my number, this is what you're going to pay me. We can't afford that right now. We can probably get to, a few 100K close to that. But next year we can give you that. And next year he could probably ask for more because he'll have gone on a Lions tour. If he stays fit, you'd back him to still be the form tight head in the world. And if he has another year, 70 to 80% as good as the year he's had since coming back from injury this year, his stock is only going to rise. So he can ask for more money. And by then you can probably say, right, you need to make me the highest paid player in Ireland right now, which is probably what he asked for this time. But he knows all things going well, he'll get that next year. And even if he gets injured in the Lions tour and doesn't play for a year, Leinster and Ireland are still, he might not get as much money, but he's still going to be, you guys have to pay me to keep me on for a World Cup. I think that's what's going to happen. So I think that's probably the way this is going. So shrewd bit of business from Tadgh, and to be honest with you, look, he deserves it. I don't mind him demanding money. Tight head prop is one of the positions in the park.
He's probably possibly our one world-class player at the moment.
Pay the man.
Pay the man. Yeah, pay him what he's worth.
Should we get Gerald in? Gerald, resident historian of all things Irish rugby, and he does his regular segment where he talks for a few minutes about a certain club. He picks a club every month and talks about them. And as far as I know, he's going to talk to us about Clontarf tonight. Is that right, Gerald? You're going to chat about Clontarf?
Yes, thank you, Nathan. I'll do a brief synopsis on Clontarf Rugby Club. The club actually was founded in 1876, 2 years after the Irish Football Union in 1874, and 3 years before the IRFU came into existence in 1879. The club first played in a field at the bottom of Vernon Avenue, rented from a Monsieur George for £3 per annum. He was a horse buyer for the French army. The club colours of blue and red were the same colours as the Clontarf Boat Club, and the bull logo was derived from the meadow of the bull where the field where the first club played. Then the club moved to its present location at Castle Avenue, along with the cricket club in 1896, with the grounds purchased from the Vernon estate, who owned actually Clontarf Castle. In 1902-103 season, the club was admitted into the Leinster Senior League. Now, I'll move forward, as this is a synopsis history, I'll move forward to 1966. Clontarf was the only club to defeat the touring Athletic Rugby Club of New Zealand, who were on a tour of England, Wales and Ireland. And another club highlight in the club was in 2014, when the club played the famous Barbarians at Castle Avenue to mark the millennium of the Battle of Clontarf in 1014. Clontarf actually came out the victors of that match by winning 43 points to 42. Among the club achievements are winning the Leinster Senior Cup in 1936, 99, and in 2002. Also, they won the Metropolitan Cup winners in 2012, All-Ireland League winners in 2014 and 2016, and runners-up in 2013 and 2017. The club was actually awarded the Sports Club of 2018 at the Cara National Inclusive Awards in recognition of Clontarf Bulls' inclusive team into the club structure. The club actually caters for men, women, youths, minis, and special needs. There are a number of players in Clontarf colours who have gone on to represent Ireland and the Lions. Among them are Mick McGrath, who played for Ireland Sevens, Cian Healy, Tadgh Furlong, who you just mentioned, Joey Carberry, Noel Reid, and a Barney Mullen. Now, Barney Mullen, I can relate to way back in the 50s. He played for Ireland in 1948 and 1949. He came originally from County Down. His family did actually a lot of business with my own father way back in the 50s and 60s. And I can remember Barney telling us stories about playing for Clontarf and for Ireland when I was only a nipper at the time. And such stories like were the time he first game when he played for Ireland against Scotland in 1948. The team assembled at Amiens Street, and between travelling up by train and going across on a ferry and a bus and a coach over to Edinburgh and back, it took 5 days for the journey for the team to go over and come back. You can just imagine what I would do today. And the players were supplied with the Irish green jersey, but they had to return the jersey after the game, or else they were forfeited. It would cost the players 30 shillings and 2 pence in old money. They also had to have supply their own shorts. The IRFU didn't supply it. And the second thing they had to bring with them was they had to bring their own soap and towels. Now remember, this was the amateur era, long before the professional era. Then in the next game, they played against Wales, and they were told to bring they were told to bring some butter, and they had to bring their own butter and sugar. There was a shortage at that time. Remember, this was after the war, and there was a lot of rationing going on at the time. And Barney, actually, he was capped 8 times for Ireland, and in 1948, they were the first Irish team to win the Grand Slam or the Triple Crown. And on that team actually also was Jackie Kyle. So he was actually in very good company. And he was offered, Barney actually at the end of, I think it was 1950, 49 or 50, he was offered a place on the Lions team to tour Australia. But he had to turn it down because his father told him, this is Barney's father, told him that he would not be taking a slow boat to Australia. You have a job to do here. It was 3 months. They all went by boat. In those days, they travelled by boat, and it was 3 months between going out and coming back when the players were away all that length of time.
Brilliant.
So that was little Barney Mullen, because I remember him, and I remember him telling the story to my parents, and I was only about 9 or 10 at the time, but I remember him telling the story about the trips over to Scotland and to Wales and whatnot, and what it was like at that time. But Clontarf, that was his club, and they won the cup again in the Leinster. First time, I think it was 1936. They won the Leinster Cup, and they won the All Ireland 2 or 3 times. They've always been in the top 3 or 4 clubs actually in AIL rugby, so they have.
Yeah, they're a club steeped in tradition and success. It's
we'll have to write it at some point with all this.
But it's
fascinating. I always wondered why they had the bull as their logo. Like it's mad to think it goes back to the fact that they rented their first pitch off a cattle dealer. You know, it's
yeah. But I remember because he used to come to my parents. He used to buy cattle from my father, And he would stay for lunch with my parents, and he would tell us stories about playing when he was playing with Clontarf and he was playing with Ireland. And some of the things he would tell, he was quite a colourful character actually. And he played on the wing for Clontarf, and he played on the wing for Ireland, so he did. And he was the goal kicker at that time.
Oh, interesting, a winger kicking goals.
Yeah.
That's brilliant, Gerald.
That's okay. Okay.
Thank you so much, Gerald. Always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you very much.
Goodie. Bye.
Right.
Well, there's always so much in Gerald's shorts and synopsis. Like, you know, I always go back when I'm watching the show afterwards. It's I usually skip your bit, Nathan, and flick on to Gerald's.
I don't blame you. He knows a lot more than I do, does that man? Right. Well, let's talk.
Forgotten more than we've ever known.
Let's talk about something I definitely don't know anything about, because we're all chatting rubbish about this in the weeks and beforehand. Let's talk about the Lions, because I, like everyone else, turns out was chatting absolute rubbish about who was getting picked and who wasn't, and my God, we all got that one hopelessly wrong. 4 Leinster lads, not the 4 we probably anticipated. There they are, looking very fine in their red.
Yeah.
Strange to see those lads wearing red. But anyway, Porter, Furlong, Conan, Henshaw. Yeah, a lot to go through here. I mean, let's because we haven't got all the time in the world, and there's a million things we can talk about. Let's try and keep it to the Leinster thing. But I know I just said that, but before we do, I just want to demonstrate. Like, let's remember the second name called out was Bundy Aki. So when the second name was Bundy Aki, my jaw hit the floor, and I think everyone knew we're in for an interesting couple of minutes here. And it turns out we was. I'm delighted. I think Ty and Robbie were dead on.
Yeah.
Everyone and their dog was predicting those two. Even over here in the UK, people were predicting those 2 lads.
Cast iron, yeah.
No, some people had Andrew Porter. I think I can see why. Dynamic option off the bench, really good as a jackal threat. One of the better props out there at the breakdown, and pretty good on the ball as well. But Jack Conan was an interesting one. I think in the same way that Peter O'Mahony got picked because of his game against England in 2017. Do you think Conan got picked because of his game against England?
Absolutely, it certainly had a huge bearing. But Peter had so much to fall back on when he made that. You know, he was coming back from a long-term injury. He wasn't supposed to be playing in that match against England. Remember, it was just when Heaslip picked up his leg injury, which ultimately ended his career.
Yeah.
Funny enough, and Peter came back in. Jack Conan doesn't have that such a prolific international career to fall back on to convince Gatland to get on the plane. So as good as he was, I didn't see it being a performance that would get him on the Lions plane. But absolutely delighted for him. You mentioned Bundy there. Just quickly, we were all taken by surprise, but maybe we shouldn't be so shocked. You know, Gatland's always liked to have physicality in midfield from his Wales days, and even the last Lions tour he tried to go with Ben Teo for the first match, remember. So maybe we shouldn't have been so shocked. But getting back to Leinster, Porter, I thought he was in a straight shootout for Xander Fragerson for the third tie head spot behind Furlong and Sinclair. I didn't expect both of them to go.
Sinclair was huge. I believe Sinclair.
Poor Sinclair, so emotional, like, you know, obviously meant the world to him, you know. Maybe not such a bad guy after all. But no, Andrew's got a great shot now of being in the test match squad. I
think so. I think he's probably the better option off the bench, right? He's slightly more dynamic, you know.
Yeah.
If you were picking someone to back up Tadgh, you want that lad who's going to come on off the bench and just give you 20 minutes, 25 minutes of absolute mayhem. That would have been Sinclair, I thought. I still don't know. I mean, somebody said it's because he wanted a better scrummager. Well, the weekend after he didn't get picked, he absolutely Sinclair destroyed the Bath scrum, and then of course Andrew got destroyed against Saracens back in September by a South African, funnily enough, in the scrum. So I don't know. I was chatting to someone about this yesterday, and I made the point that maybe it is, Robin McBride, the Leinster forwards coach, has seen Andrew Porter improve massively with his scrummaging, and was in that selection meeting as the Lions forwards coach, and said, you know what, this lad can scrummage really well, and I know he can, and I've seen it, and I can work with him on a tour. And maybe that's what got him. I don't know if the call was Porter or Sinclair or Fagerson or Sinclair, but maybe, a lot of people have been saying Johnny didn't get in because Townsend would have been banging the Finn Russell drum. I don't know, but right, we mentioned the name, the picture is there, we might as well.
There he is.
You go first. What was your reaction to that?
Okay. I would have been a lot more shocked if he hadn't got the recent concussion issues. I think that's having a major bearing on his non-selection for this tour. I think Gatland is probably being genuine when he's saying he's serious reservations about whether Sexton is fit enough to go and whether he'll survive the tour.
Do you think he means that? Because I don't buy a lot of what he says. So he said he picked Porter because he can cover loose head. I'm sorry, I don't buy that at all. When's the last time?
No, I don't buy that either.
When's the last time Andrew Porter played loose head for Leinster, let alone Ireland, and let alone against a South African tight head, whoever it's going to be for them? Like
4 years.
Exactly. He's never done it for Ireland, I don't think. I could be wrong. He might have done it in like a tour game years ago, but he hasn't done it in a Six Nations game, as far as I know. So he hasn't done it at the highest level. So if he's saying that, and I buy it, I don't necessarily buy the Johnny durability thing, because you don't need to be that durable on a Lions tour, especially if you're Sexton, who has a track record of being dropped into squads and performing. Johnny doesn't play 5-6 games for Leinster in the run up to Six Nations. He might play 1 or 2, and then he turns up and he's very good. That being said, I think the real reason is because he obviously likes Farrell. Bigger's been playing really well in the Premiership recently and finished the Six Nations quite well. And then Finn Russell has something a little bit different and would have had Townsend in
Townsend.
So I'm not saying it's just the Townsend factor, and this isn't the bitter Irishman going. There's no Irishman in that coaches meeting. It's not that at all. But you can see why he hasn't been picked. But I don't think it's a durability issue, because someone like Johnny with his track record, I don't think you need him to be durable for a Lions test. I saw it coming. I'm upset by it. Of course I am, because I'm an Irishman and a Leinster fan. But I could see it coming 100%, because there's 4 excellent 10s across the 4 countries, and someone has to miss out. And Johnny hasn't played recently, so it's an easy decision to say he hasn't played, we leave him at home, which is absolutely fair enough. But my one gripe would be, and you said the concussions means you're not that surprised, but if he hadn't been concussed, I would have been shocked, because last minute to win the game against a very good Scottish team. I don't think people made enough of a big deal about that, because that's a huge game-winning moment in a massive game. And then he was, in the same way that the England game got Conan picked, the England game probably got Conor Murray nailed on as the starter. He probably was going to go anyway, because the 9 competition wasn't great. And why not? Why hasn't that England game gotten Johnny picked?
I think by durability, I think he's genuinely concerned, and I believe him on this, that he builds a game plan around Johnny, and he sends him out in the test match, and he gets broken up and comes off. I think he's. I don't think it's concerns about him lasting six matches in the space of 3 or 4 weeks, because he's not going to play them 6 matches. I think he's just reckons Johnny's in bits, and he's not going to. He's at this moment in time, and he's not. It's too big a risk.
I think it's unfortunate. Yeah, it's unfortunate that when it happens for Johnny, when it rains, it pours. We all remember a few years ago he had to sit down for 3 months because of got 3 concussions in a row. He actually had a couple of good years where people were saying, instead of saying his tackle technique is too high, he's in danger, they were saying, oh, look at him, look how brave he is in defence and how he puts his body on the line. And now all of a sudden he's getting a series of head knocks again, people are saying. So, it comes in fits and bursts, and this latest burst of injuries for Johnny has clearly cost him.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of big game 10s, I think Sexton that this season has proved himself more than capable. And so it's frustrating, but I can see why it's happened, and I don't have too many complaints about it. I'm not I'm not as fervent as maybe as you thought I'd been.
No, it is frustrating, and I think we might Gatland might, we all might rue it if we're in the third test, and we need someone of his experience and big match temperament to get us over the line, and he's not there. If we've
the other two snubs were obviously James Ryan and Ringrose. I'm a little bit shocked out of Davies, Ringrose, and Slade. I'm shocked. I'm a little bit surprised that one of them didn't go, because I know, Gatland's going to pick the big centres, blah, 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 but I thought he might have given himself at least an option of one of those three. I was probably more surprised by Davies not going. I thought that was the one that was very shocking. I thought Gary had a chance, but then equally got a bit injured, had a bad game against Scotland after a good start to the tournament, but he was playing well as the rest of the Irish team wasn't. And then bad game against Scotland, and now he's been in and out with injuries. And then, the James Ryan one annoys me, because if Johnny Gray went ahead to James Ryan, I could see why, because James hasn't played a lot recently. Yeah. But the fact it's Johnny Hill, I get it. Johnny Hill,
yeah.
Big lad. No, don't get me wrong. He's a big lad. He's a big bruiser, and he's very good on the ball. He's a good ball playing lock, but he didn't have a good Six Nations, and he lost his place in the Ireland for the Ireland game to Charlie Ewells. So this isn't a form pick, really. And then against Exeter, he was, that Leinster pack who had I think we had Toner and Fardy, not the two biggest second rows. They outpowered a Sam Simmons, Johnny Hill Exeter pack. So there's a few points. I mean, why is the form of Maro Itoje and Courtney Laws historically good enough, but James Ryan, who's been absolutely ridiculous numbers all in for the last 2 years. Anyway, but again, injuries, hasn't been playing recently. All these factors come down, and also, maybe he's just he does give up a few stone to the likes of someone like Johnny Hill. So maybe he just isn't the second row that Gatland looks for. Yeah,
that's not blowing my own trumpet, but I call it pre-announcement. I said James Ryan isn't gone. He's the form just isn't there. I think he needed a massive match against La Rochelle, and to be honest, I felt bad for him watching. He looked like a man laboured, unsure of himself. One of the great characteristics of James Ryan when he came on the scene first was his maturity and his ability just to do the right thing almost all the time. Like, the last player I've seen like with that sort of smarts and that level of decision making was Brian O'Driscoll. Like, there was a moment towards the end of the first half in the La Rochelle match, like where he took a ball, he took a ball into contact, broke away from the back of them all, and it was just a bad decision. Got pinged in the La Rochelle 22. They win a penalty. They go up and score 3 points from a position we should have scored. And it's just not happening for him at the moment between injuries, and I think his confidence has been affected, and maybe he's better off, to be honest, with the summer off. Maybe the Johnny Hill one, I think Johnny Hill has been sent there as a third tracker, like to play in the midweek matches, and he's a big guy. They'll go out and hopefully won't get broken up, and Gatland doesn't have to worry then about his test match options. I think that's the logic behind that.
Yeah, I see that.
Ringrose. Personally, I would have got. You mentioned the 3 ball playing centres that you expected one of them to go, and I'd agree there. He kind of gave himself options in every other department, like scrum half. He has different styles of scrum half, back row. You can go with Watson or to Tipperick as a fast open side, or play Curry if you want more beef. Centre, he's kind of nailed his colours to the mast, hasn't he? So could be Henshaw and Aki. Wouldn't be surprised at all.
It's interesting because if you look at the 3 number 8s he's picked, and again, I was chatting to Kyle Patterson about this last night, they all tend to play in quite wide positions, which means your centres kind of play a bit narrower and more in the middle, so more bulk is required there. So, if you've got Faletau popping up in the wide slots, maybe you don't need someone at 13 who's gonna fulfill that slightly more attacking way, hybrid linking to the wing, etc. So, you know, again, all these calls you can eventually, after you calm down a bit, you can make sense. The other one, I didn't think he'd go, but I thought his next cab off the rank is Hugo. He was second best fullback of the Six Nations, but he was never going to go because Liam Williams, I think, covers fullback and wing, and Williams covers wing slightly better than Hugo does. But if anything happens, I think Hugo's definitely the next cab off the rank. Anyway,
absolutely.
Good to see 8 Irish lads going. Just probably not the 8 we thought that would go.
Not the 8 we expected, no, but it's about
Henderson and Byrne, definitely. That's justified, I think.
Absolutely, two of them had fantastic Six Nations campaigns. So I think Henderson has a decent shot at being in the test match squad at least, and it'll only be a good bench option. And if Itoje doesn't get his act together, like, and rediscover a bit of form, Henderson could be pushing for a starting spot. I think Tadgh Furlong, depends on which way Gatland wants to go. If he wants to play Curry at open side, to get a few more kilos into the back row, I think Byrne has a great chance of starting. Otherwise, I think he's a good bench option as well. Yeah,
I think because versatility off the bench, definitely. Anyway, right, I've definitely calmed down a bit since the announcements, but there's a few things in there. Let's stick. Let's talk about something a bit more positive. Do you want to bring Gerry in?
Yes, delighted to welcome a very special guest tonight. His name is Gerry Sweeney. He is the coach of the Blue Dragons, inclusive Tadgh Rugby team down at Navan Rugby Club. Gerry, you're very welcome to tonight's show.
Thanks a million for having me on, gentlemen, and very good evening to all your viewers as well.
Great. Thanks, Gerry. Gerry, we're just going to play a short video of your local club and your team, the Blue Dragons, and just show our viewers what it's all about and what you do. So get the.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
I think Brandon might have played the wrong video there. I'm sure we'll get it up now in a second.
We started our inclusive Tadgh Rugby sessions in October 2017. That all came about as part of our Navan 2020 Clubs and Clubs project, which I was the project leader for. And we started off with 4 kids, and now we're up to 20 kids as of April 2019. So we've come a long way in a short period of time. It's slowly but surely building, nice and easy.
Our girl Poppy, she absolutely loves it. She's asking for it on Saturday night. We go, where are you going tomorrow, Poppy? Rugby. It's about inclusion, and it's about my daughter participating in a sport with her peers. It's really good. We never miss it.
Johnny Sexton. And if you're watching Johnny, I like you.
Fantastic. It's been nothing but a hugely beneficial and positive experience for Sam and for us as well. It's just been a great thing. It gives us the chance for the children to be able to create something independent and separate for themselves. You know, so the parents are kind of at one side and you're able to observe and encourage, but it's absolutely about the kids, full on for an hour, and it's just a great experience for them.
To come down here this morning and to play rugby with the boys and girls of all different age groups, it's just been a really fun experience. The smiles and the laughs just make it what sport's about, really, isn't it? It's like just getting out and enjoying yourself and meeting new people and having fun.
We're having fun.
This hour in the week is probably the nicest hour in the week in terms of giving back from rugby. But to do this is really, really cool. For us to give back some of what we know and to give some of our time to give these kids an opportunity to play team sport is really, really huge. It's a privilege and an honour.
Yeah, just
Gerry,
fantastic.
Gerry, you had a bit more patience.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the pandemic and COVID, I'm an audiologist in my day job, and in clinic I have to wear one of these FP2 masks.
Oh wow!
And with the Ronnie Drew beard, it wasn't exactly sitting tight on my face. So unfortunately, the beard had to go. Unfortunately, it might come back at some stage, maybe down the road. We'll see. we'll see.
Fantastic.
Great. Yeah, most people are going the other way during COVID. You know, growing the hair.
Yeah.
You're broken the trend.
Well, I've grown it a bit longer on top. I have to say, it's much longer than it used to be. So, what I've lost off my face, I'm putting it up on top, and it's all my own, and it's all there, present and accounted for, which is great. So, yeah, it's been an interesting time all this pandemic. So,
Gerry, what struck me about that video is just the emotion and you see the joy both the kids and the parents are getting from and even yourself. You talk about it being a privilege and an honor. Tell us a bit about tell us a bit about your background and how you ended up getting involved in inclusive tag rugby.
Yeah, well, I won't dwell too much on me. It's not about me, but I started off with Navan in 2011, coaching under sixes minis. My son started off playing at that time, and around that time as well, I was dragged in to play with the thirds to give rugby another go. So we came along, and in 2016 we had Navan kind of Club 2020 kind of meetings just to try and see if we could get more of the club members involved and get more projects going, to get members involved with the club and how it's run and kind of bring it forward for the next couple of years. And we had a chap called Sandy Dunlop come in. He did a bit of work with Terenure Rugby Club with their 2020 vision projects. And I was a project leader for this particular project. So we kind of watched what the guys in Terenure had done with the Tigers. Hugely successful, again, bringing it from the bottom up to where they are now. I mean, they've got over 50 kids that come on a Sunday morning there to train, I think. So yeah, the disability tag rugby thing came out of that. Our CCRO, Club CCRO at the time, Robbie Waters, was doing tag rugby activities with the local national schools. And some of those schools would have had special needs disability units as well, and there are some special needs schools as well in locality. So I know that he'd been trying to get it off the ground as well. So we put the heads together, we organised some coaches, and on the 22nd of October 2017 we had our first training session. So it was a bit nerve-wracking. We had 4 kids turn up and a heap of coaches, so the player to coach ratio was gigantic, or the other way around, but it worked out really, really well, and that's how it all started. So right now we've got 20 kids in the book. On average on our Sunday morning sessions we have between kind of 15, 16 kids. We have some great coaches as well, and you know, it makes my job so much easier when we've got our good coaches on board too. So we have lads that I used to play with in Navan Rugby Club. We've got some of the youth players as well that have come in to give a dig out too, which is great because they get to give back to the club and it keeps them involved in the club as well, and the community aspect. And we have some of the TY students from the local schools as well. So a lot of those would be working towards their President's Award, the Gashka Award, with their Community Spirit module. So they come on board with us. I think it's for 10 or 12 weeks. They have to come every week and commit some time. Well, every single one of them that have committed time to the Dragons, they're still with us, which is fantastic to see as well. So they're getting something from it too. It's not just for the kids and their parents. Everybody's getting something out of this, and it's really, really cool. Really, really cool.
Talk us through. So you say you've gone from 4 to 20 kids. How's that kind of progression come about? How's that kind of, well, maybe recruitment's the wrong type of word, but how have you managed to get the name of the club out there to attract more and more kids over the years?
Yeah, you could probably use the recruitment analogy. I think good news travels. Good news travels fast, and you know, when you're providing an opportunity for kids, perhaps generally may not necessarily always have an opportunity to play a team sport, and not only play a team sport, but play a team sport with their peers, which is so important, you know, for their development and for their families as well, in terms of those children's progression through life. I think it's a good news story. So we got in touch with some of the local schools. We do a good bit of hammering on Facebook and just using the contacts around, just trying to spread the word. One thing in Navan is that we've got a good network of people who can get a message out there quickly if you really want it out there quickly. So in fairness to them, they come up trumps, and that's how we've managed to grow it over the while. So we've got kids coming from all over, you know, kind of mid-Meath, you could say, from Forest Crosses, Drogheda, Ashburn, Trim, Clonmellon, all over Navan as well, the northern side of Navan too. So they're coming from all over to play with the Dragons. So.
Yeah, we're just getting some fantastic feedback coming up on screen there, praising what you're doing down there in Navan Rugby Club and how you're getting the message out. And what I keep hearing as well is people saying is the opportunity to play with your peers. That seems to be a huge theme of what you're doing, and that's what really brings the joy to the kids and makes them feel involved, and that it's a setup specifically for them.
Yeah, it is, and the camaraderie as a result between them is it's amazing to watch. If you come along and you watch the sessions, you'll see the dynamic in the squad. And although they're all various ages, anything from 6 up to 17, 18, they're all part of the Blue Dragon squad. They're all working together for one goal. And like anything in life, to be able to play with people, with your peers in any kind of activity is such an important thing in terms of our development. So it's nice to be able to provide that opportunity.
Talk to us about the last year then, because obviously that's set everyone back a little bit. Well, yeah. more than a little bit. Have you done anything different from anyone else to try and keep in touch with the kids, keep them going, keep those connections there, so that when fingers crossed soon enough you manage to get back out there, that the transition to back going out on the pitch will be pretty seamless?
Yeah, I mean, with this particular lockdown, we kept playing tag rugby up until just before Christmas. So we were lucky enough not to have to pull the plug in the latter half of the year. Earlier on in the year, we did have to do it, as did everyone else in the rugby world, to be honest. So, yeah, it's been really, really great to get them back. We all need it. Everybody needs it. We need to be doing something outside of Zoom and all that sort of jazz, things that we'd never heard of before the pandemic, perhaps. But yeah, it's been great to get them back out training. So it's been a really, really important thing, and it just gives us a little bit of normality. It's a little bit of normality that we're moving on and getting past all of this. Sport is a good thing in that regard. So
yeah.
Have you got a timeline? Have you got a timeline for the end of this lockdown? Yeah,
so we're back already. We're back 2 weeks now. So we're back playing our tag. Yeah, we're back. Yeah. So we've great thing about tag rugby is that it's pretty socially distant. There's not a huge amount of contact, which is great. We have all our COVID-19 protocols involved in the club as well. Alan Kennedy is our club COVID officer, so he keeps a tight rein on what we can do and what we can't do in terms of equipment and things like that. So when we're out, our coaches wear masks. Some of us have been vaccinated already. So no, yeah, it's been great, and the kids are delighted to be back out. Just something kicking a ball, The only thing they're giving out about right now is the lack of goalposts. They've taken the goalposts down for the summer to see the ground. So we're kind of looking at jumpers for goalposts next week. I think Ed Sheeran might be happy with that plug. But that's what we're going to try and hope for. The kicking for 5 or 10 minutes at the start of the session goes down really, really well. So that's been the only kind of different thing for them right now.
And it's growing nationally. I've been looking up. I believe there's over 40 clubs around the island now that have inclusive rugby teams for young boys and girls. So hopefully we'll see that grow even more now with in the post-COVID world.
If you look at Leinster the Leinster province as an example, there's over 20 clubs involved with inclusive rugby that provide inclusive rugby opportunities and have teams. It's growing all the time. It really, really is. And listening to Gerald earlier on talking about Clontarf have their own inclusive team, the Clontarf Bulls. So yeah, every club seems to be getting involved in it now. It's a really, really positive story.
It's great.
Really positive story.
It is really positive. And it's all about getting the message out now, so making people aware that, if you're in the Navan area and you have a child who wants to get involved in sports and they have special needs, you have the facilities there and the personnel to provide that for them. And if around the country, check out your local club. You have a child with special needs that wants to get involved in rugby and tag rugby, then just contact your local club. And by the looks of things, most of them have a setup now for inclusive tag rugby, which is fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant to see, and hopefully we'll see it grow even further.
So there's I think Brandon's got a picture there of you guys playing in the Aviva. I mean, it'll be a very strange picture because there's actual people in the stands. But talk to us a little bit about that, how that came about, and what it meant for everyone involved to get that opportunity.
Yeah, that was a really special day for the team and their families. That was the 16th of December 2018, long before we ever heard of coronavirus and COVID-19. That was the Leinster v Bath game, Heineken Cup game. It was cold, it was wet, and we had an opportunity to play the halftimes minis exhibition game against the Wicklow Warriors. And that was organised by a gentleman called Norman O'Leary. You might have heard of him. He's involved with Leinster. He organises the minis games and at halftime in the RDS. So Norman is the chair of the Leinster Disability Advisory Group, or the DAG group as we call it. And I sit on that, although we haven't had meetings in a long time now because of COVID. But yeah, that we played that halftime game, and there was 47 or 48,000 people there that day. And the kids really fed off the energy from the crowd. The crowd's appreciation of the reference was gigantic. I actually reffed that game that day, so I can actually say I played a game on the hallowed turf of the Aviva. I had played a game on the back pitch before, right, but I actually got to run around on the actual Aviva pitch, which was really nice. Yeah, it was a really cool thing. It was actually quite emotional, because that was a kind of a pinnacle for that particular year for us in terms of an activity and getting our team out to showcase what these kids can do. Because when we started off, and it might seem strange to hear me say it, but being able to catch a ball, being able to string a couple of passes together was a real challenge. But they worked really hard at it. They gave it their all every single week, rain, hail, or shine. And to be able to take the kids around the Aviva and for them to be applauded for their efforts was really huge. It was just a great day for those children and their families, and for our club as well, of course. And for us as coaches, for that kind of fruit of labor, if you want to call it that, was pretty cool. It was a great day. A great day. And it was nice as well, actually, just to mention, at halftime, when the teams went in, a couple of the subs from the Bath and Leinster side, they came out to us. We had a big squad that day, so you couldn't exactly have them all on the pitch at the same time. So they came along, they spoke to the kids as well. So it made it an extra little bit special too. They gave their time as well. So it was appreciated on so many levels. A bit like an onion, really. It's kind of lots of different layers to it.
Wow, yeah, that's incredible. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
What the kids' reaction to that, to the lads coming up to them, that must have been absolutely incredible.
Some experience playing again in front of nearly 50,000 people as well.
Yeah, and the noise, it's just amazing.
What sort of what age range do you cater for, Gerry?
So we would cater pretty much the kind of mini youths kind of age group, so from 6 up to about 18.
Cool.
That kind of we've got quite a wide variety of ages.
Yeah.
So if you come on to our training session, we kind of split them into two. We have kind of like we'll call it our nursery group, but our minis group and our youth group, because some of the older lads are a little bit bigger, a little bit quicker, a little bit stronger, and we don't get any collision issues. So we separate them, and it tends to work very well. So the older players, they get a bit more out of it. We can do a little bit more with them. They're a little bit more advanced in terms of their skill set, and the younger players then are learning the basic skills, and they all progress along, and it works quite well. So the nice thing as well on Sunday mornings now is that we have a kind of coffee dock outside the rugby club, so people come along to meet for a chat, and people are coming along to watch the sessions as well. So that's spreading the word about what we do too. That we're there and we're showing these guys how to play tag rugby. So
brilliant.
It's been good.
Well, keep up the good work, Gerry.
We'll do our best. Yeah, we'll do our best.
Hopefully, it's good to hear that you're back at it. Over the last few weeks, and hopefully it's not long before you. Do you think it'll be a while before you get to travel around and play against other sides?
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll probably be looking into next season. To be realistically, I'd say we'll probably be looking at September, October before that starts again. So, but you know what? It'll come in its own good time, and when it does, we'll be ready. So we'll be looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing the story. Brilliant to hear.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity, and it's just nice to be able to let people know what we do and why we do it, more importantly. Yeah. So thanks again. You're very kind for having me on. Thank you.
Thanks. It's our pleasure, Gerry.
Okay, God puts. Yeah, wow. It's
amazing. Great.
I mean,
it's absolutely fantastic. You see what it means to them kids, the parents, and the coaches. As you said, everyone's getting something out of this. Making everyone's day to be involved in a project like this.
Massive. I can only imagine how fulfilling it is for people like Gerry as well. To be able to be involved in that, like, it just gives you the proper sense of purpose every day, and I think which is something a lot of people have lacked this year is a reason to do something, and that's a pretty big one. That's quite inspiring to see that. Yeah,
absolutely, and inspiration. Yeah. and best of luck to them. You know, it's fantastic.
We've got about 5 minutes at the end. Should we talk about something that doesn't matter anywhere near as much as that does?
Yeah. Like getting knocked out for Europe.
Yeah, we have to talk about the La Rochelle game.
Yeah.
There's Ronan. Look, every time we lose a big European game, there's always a massive inquest, right? Rightly or wrongly. I think I listened to O'Gara does a really good segment every week on News Talk. I know some people might not listen, like the rest of the channel, but I like it when he's on. And he said something that resonated with me a lot recently was, you know, he doesn't necessarily understand the complete negative, you know, throwing the arms up in the air, Leinster are serial European bottlers, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's very difficult to get to these stages of Europe every year. You know, La Rochelle don't do it every year. Toulouse had a good few years in the wilderness. You know, let's remember it took us 6 years to win one between 2012 and 2018, the Barron, Matt O'Connor years. And as we all might forget to remember. And even then, we got to a semi-final against Toulon, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Took them to extra time.
Extra time, Madigan threw an intercept.
Madigan threw, yeah.
Was it Habana was under the sticks, I think?
Yeah.
So these things, you always need a bit of perspective with these things. I think there's definitely an issue there with Leinster and Ireland teams when they play against the bigger sides, for sure. But that's not a problem that's unique to Leinster and Ireland. If you play against a team that's bigger than you, you need to play very well in other facets of the game. And to be perfectly honest, in the first half especially, I thought Leinster did. You know, there was the Ross Byrne crossfield kick that if it sits up differently, J-Lo's under the sticks. There was I think it was Luke McGrath gave a brilliant flat ball to Ringrose on the wing. And as the ball tried to come back inside, a La Rochelle hand got on it. And otherwise, you know, Luke might have been under the post as well on a support line. And in those big games, those are the moments you need. Those are the balls you need to stick. You know, remember the Saracens final? There was Gary didn't give a pass a few years ago. There's always, and again, these big games, they need to stick. And I think it's easier to fix that and to fix that last pass than it is to get into that position anyway. And the reason why I don't think there needs to be a massive inquest and a massive Leinster need to change, blah, 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 is because they're getting into those positions. They just need that extra 5-10% to take those opportunities when they come against these bigger teams.
Yes, true, Nathan. Is there not also an argument, though, that the two matches we've lost now in the last year, the two big ones against Saracens and La Rochelle, in both matches there was an inability to change game plan when things weren't going their way. Saracens from kicking the ball repeatedly away to La Rochelle taking the ball in constantly into contact when we were kept conceding turnovers. I have a theory, and you mightn't agree with me here, but just hear me out on this one. I have a theory that they fell into a bit of a trap early in the match when La Rochelle kept giving away penalties, and I kind of bought into it myself. I was saying after 10 or 15 minutes, just keep taking the ball. Their discipline is shocking. They've conceded 5 penalties in the opening 12 or 13 minutes. Just keep it going, Leinster. Maybe the team fell into that trap as well. And we can talk about Will Skelton and their physicality all we want, but it is possible to beat a team that physically has your number, is physically bigger. But you have to play a lot smarter, and you need to be able to change tact when things aren't going to plan. Going back to Johnny Sexton, I think I don't think we're being lazy when we say that Johnny's absence had a huge bearing on the game. I think he drives the tempo and he can make them decisions mid match. Ross can't, and we were lacking something. Look at Spark. Exeter had a big pack as well. Look at the change of style between the Exeter match and the La Rochelle. How we changed the ball of attack, committed, spent less time at rucks and constantly took the ball away from the breakdown area. There was none of that. We were just missing that spark, that bit of variation and ingenuity when we really needed it.
I agree, and I think, yeah, I agree with that completely. I think the Saracens one, we slightly did change it up a little bit, and we ran it a little bit more. I mean, there was that, wasn't there? There was that set phase try that Jordan Larmour scored. That just was just something a little bit different. So I agree with that, and I agree that, you know, maybe Johnny does try and change things up. I think Ross Burns should have kicked more. I think that crossfield kick for James Lowe nearly worked. I think La Rochelle had that rush defence. They exploited the space in behind us really well. There was a Brice Dulin chip. I think there was, you know, it's a really good part of Ross's game, and I think he just, you know, in the pressure of the game, maybe that wasn't the game plan. I don't know. I would like to see him try that a little bit more, because they play their wingers quite narrow and quite fast up. So yeah, I agree with that. Maybe the game plan should have been changed a little bit more. I think the other thing to remember is, I think Leinster do have the players to deal with these big packs. It's just where they on the pitch. I mean, Tadgh was there, but, you know, James Ryan, as we spoke of in the past, I think he's done well against every single player who's bigger than him, who he's come up against. That's not named Maro Itoje. He's been more than able to handle his own. I think Dan Levy's a big miss. I think Caelan Doris was a big miss. And, you know, and Ryan Baird, I think he will be that dominant physical player, but I just think, you know, he's got himself into a bench role. I know, was Toner the right pick? Should Fardy maybe have played? I don't know, but, you know, you take those 3-4 players out of the Leinster pack, and the fact is that they are a very different pack. I know Conor was playing, but I mean, maybe he's more of a wide dynamic threat than a Doris. So I think, you know, Leinster have, but but the flip side of that coin is you're always going to have injuries. So you need to be able to have lads who can take that step up. You know, Reese got injured. I think he was a big loss.
Absolutely.
Someone like Josh Van der Fleer, he's been, you know, he was excellent against Exeter, and he's packed, you know, he's punching above his weight these days in the carry, but, you know, he maybe against the biggest possible side, he's not as effective there. You know, with Will Connors in his chop tackling, would that have helped? You know, so there's all these permutations and combinations. But the big thing, I think, was if you look at every successful Leinster European team, they've had someone in the engine room just to add a little bit more to come in who's been a big experience. So there was Elson 2009, Hines 2011, Thorne 2012, and then a peak Scott Fardy in 2018. There's always been someone they've signed that has that bit of dog, which is kind of why the Ala Alatoa signing kind of baffled me a little bit, because even if it is okay, so that means Porter can play loose head or whatever, Ala Alatoa is still going to come off the bench. He's not going to give you that, you know, that presence, that international class dog who can really do a Will Skelton and just not dominate people. So it's something that
we're just going to have to rely on our own guys, like, you know.
We are. I honestly believe that a full strength Leinster pack, well, maybe even -1 or 2, can do a lot better job that day with, you know, a fit and informed James Ryan Baird with another year of experience, Ronan Kelleher with another year of experience. You know, I think that makes a big difference. You know, Doris, Levy, etc. So look, you can't say, lads, oh, when we get all our players fit, because you're never going to have everyone fit. But it's worth pointing out. It's worth pointing out.
Yeah, of course. It's small percentages we're talking, Nathan. Really, you know, it's small percentages.
Yeah.
You know, as you say, there was a couple of moments there where bounce of the ball didn't go our way, and it's them little momentum shifts that can change a match. There was flaws, I think, in how we played, and I think it would have been just that little bit better, and a bit more luck, and it would have been a different game. But, you know, it's a learning experience, and as you say, like, it's not the end of the world. Winning the Pro 14 and getting to a European semi-final isn't all doom and gloom.
The problem is there's no satisfaction in winning the Pro 14 these days. You know, in I think we did win a Pro 14 under Matt O'Connor, didn't we? And that got a lot of positive energy because Europe was so difficult. But at the minute, with the Pro 14 the way it is, there's no status. So it just puts more pressure on Leinster to win Europe. So when they don't, these requests get bigger and the reactions get bigger. I think, you know, there was a time when we would have bitten your arm off for a Magners League or whatever it was called back in the day. You know, I remember one of my Leinster one of the first games I went to was we lost a final in the RDS to the Ospreys. I mean, that sounds unimaginable.
It was that was a painful experience. Was that the 2012 one, Nathan, where Shane Williams got the late try?
Could well have been, I think so. I think, and Tommy was playing for Ospreys that day, I think, as well. So it was look,
Brandon remembers it.
Look, if Ronan O'Gara is going on the radio saying people need to calm down. Getting to a semi-final of Europe is still a brilliant achievement. Yes, Leinster want to win Europe, but also you have to remember we would have to have beaten Exeter away, La Rochelle away, and then Toulouse in Twickenham. So, and that would have been the most impressive knockout run we'd beat anyone, let alone Leinster.
Yeah.
So it's perspective, and yeah, the performance wasn't good enough, and we were missing players, and all these things they add up. Right, I think we've run a bit over there. Anything else you want to talk about before we go?
I think that's about all. It's been an absolute pleasure to co-host the show tonight with you, Nathan, as always, and it's great to have both Gerald and Gerry, two huge contributions to the show tonight, and we'd like to wish them both the best of luck in all their endeavours. And thank you all for watching.
Quickly, Conor, always a pleasure. And just quickly, I don't know if he's watching live or if he's going to watch this back, but just want to say we're all thinking about our big boss, Big Joe Shep. Just thoughts and prayers for him and his family, and hope everything's all right, and we get to see him soon. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. This has been the Leinster Laighin. Thanks a lot, Conor. Always a pleasure, and thanks to our two guests and to Brandon, our producer.